The communication of idioms is a classical name given by ancient Greek Christological thinkers for the way we attribute properties to Christ as both God and man. So, for example, we can say that the God-man suffered, and we can say that the God-man raised the dead. If he suffered by virtue of his human nature. If he raises the dead, he does that primarily by virtue of his divine nature, because he can do so through his divine power. So how do we attribute these different properties of divinity and humanity to Jesus? And Aquinas tells us there's a fairly simple rule of how we do this. We attribute all the human actions and the divine actions of Christ to the one person who is the Son of God made man. And so everything that Christ did or suffered as God or man is only attributable to one subject. It's truly the eternal Son of God made man who suffers. It's truly the eternal Son of God made man who raises the dead. So, for example, that means we can say that Jesus Christ, who is God and man, truly died on the cross, and Jesus Christ, who's truly God and man, truly raised the dead. Okay, so far so good. But that means we can also refer to Christ as a concrete subject using nature terms, like saying this man or God, because those can both denote a particular subject. So we can look at Jesus, we can point at him and say, this man created the stars. Now, we don't mean that he created the stars by virtue of his human nature. We mean he created the stars by virtue of his divine nature. But it's true to say the eternal Word made man. This man here created the stars. And we can say God died, God suffered, God was raised from the dead. It's not the case, it is not the case that the eternal Son of God in his deity suffered or died or was raised from the dead. But it is the case that God in his human nature, the eternal Son made man, did suffer, die, and was raised from the dead in his human nature. So it's true to say God died, God suffered, and God was raised from the dead, as long as you properly qualify what you mean by those denominations. Now, what you cannot do in the communication of idioms, Aquinas thinks, is attribute the divine properties to the human nature of Christ or the human properties to the divine nature of Christ. Some Christian thinkers have said that, and Aquinas disagrees with the idea. So, for example, you cannot say the human nature of Christ, by virtue of the incarnation, is omnipresent or omnipotent. We cannot say that the human nature of Jesus is everywhere. God is everywhere as the cause of all things, giving them all being, sustaining them in existence. But his human nature is not everywhere. We also can't say that the divine nature suffers, or that the divine nature is taken on the properties of human obedience or human vulnerability. The divine nature remains eternal, perfect in its actuation, incapable of suffering, transcendent, but God truly became human. Okay, so we attribute everything to the person of the Son as God and man. We don't attribute the divine properties to the human nature, and we don't attribute the human properties to the divine nature. In this way, we rightly make use of the communication of idioms to manifest the reality of the incarnation in an appropriate way.